I'm very excited because today I will be sharing with you a brand new updated barn tour for 2026. And I thought it's not the perfect time to do it because not every single project is done, but like that's kind of a constant state here. But regardless, I really wanted to share with all of you the updates and then new projects that we're kind of looking forward to, and then some things that maybe I haven't shared with you guys yet that we've been working on. I did a barn tour last year and I really want to do like an updated barn tour every year because I think it's really fun to look back at different time periods. Sid and I have lived here together for probably 4 years now, and so much has changed. I wish that I was vlogging and creating videos back when we first moved here because it looked completely different. And I think it's just really cool to look back at it and to have it as a memory, like even though we're not exactly where we want to be right now, we've made so much progress and I'm really, really proud of it. So I hope that this video brings you some comfort, or if you have goals to have your own facility and your own barn, I'm hoping that this can help you make decisions or help you get ideas, because I know when we first moved here, we were completely starting from scratch and I had so many questions and there weren't a lot of videos going really in depth about those things. So if I don't like cover a topic as thoroughly as you want me to, you can let me know and I would love to dedicate a video to that to help you. I know it's pretty daunting to start a project like this, and especially with horses because they're so darn particular. So I'm going to start with the entrance of the barn and just walk into the tack room and then show you. I'm going to show you like thoroughly, but not open every single cupboard because I think that would take a very long time. But I will start by entering the tack room. So starting with the entrance of the barn, we have these really lovely blue spruce trees lining the driveway to get back to the barn. Oh, I made these planters out of some extra fencing that we had, and then we just put in these 2 rose bushes and then these little hedges with some hydrangeas, but we might need to move those because I'm worried I got the small ones. So there's the main aisle entrance here, and then this gate leads to our backyard and then to our house. And this door we actually had painted this past year. Walking in, I'll just give you an overview of what it looks like. So I have saddle racks here, saddle pads, bridles, lunging equipment. I'll keep their feed buckets up top, supplements below, and then more supplements. And then this is the cat's little feeding station. We have 3 barn cats that we take care of that started showing up, but they come in and we have this little cat door that locks. So the 2 that we're able to catch will sleep in here every night in this little bed with their little toys and have their dinner. And then we have another feeding station outside for our more feral cat who doesn't like to be locked in here. Below here we'll keep our grain, and they're on these little wheels, and that's what that looks like. I actually built this addition, like it's just a little desk that I added, and initially I added it so that I could sit here during like appointments or something, or while I'm waiting for the vet to show up, and it gives me a little bit of a workspace. But now it's the cat's bunk bed. Underneath here, there's alfalfa pellets and Outlast, and those have little wheels on them, which is really convenient. Classic horse calendar, and then our feeding charts. Just storage here, and then underneath the sink. And in the sink, I'm soaking Rowan's alfalfa pellets for her dinner. And then we have a little fan for the kitties because it's not air conditioned in here, but it is insulated. So in the winter, we have this really lovely heater keep it warm in here. And then in the summer, we have a little litter box in here. And I tried regular kitty litter, but they didn't like it. So I just went with hay, and that seems to do the trick. They stopped pooping on the floor, which is really nice. And then we just have these little lockers that I got from IKEA with little nameplates on them. A new addition is we had irrigation put in, and I'll show you that when we go outside. It's for the arena, and then also for a new addition that is one of my mom's projects, and I'll show you that as well. Pictures that I just framed of Rowan and Ruby, and I did this before Teddy was born because that's his sire, and I didn't have a picture of Teddy because he wasn't born yet. And then we just have this cute mirror, and that is the tack room. If we walk through here, this is the main part of the barn. The layout of the barn is very airy. So initially when we moved here, none of this was here. It was like a really old red barn with a leaky roof, and like the walls were falling. So we took everything down besides the framing, which is, you can see here, and then completely redid the layout and then added an overhang. And so it was a really big undertaking. I think it took like 6 to 8 months, possibly. It took quite a while. And then we've been slowly adding different things to it since then. There is the main breezeway that goes straight through the main aisle. And then there's another door here. And this is really, really lovely because this door faces east. This door faces west. And in the winter, if you can imagine, it's very windy. So I can close these doors, block the wind, and then have access to going in and out through that door. And hardly any wind comes in through this door because the wind doesn't come from this direction that often. This corner right outside of the tack room, I have just this closed pallet. I get nervous with pallets around horses because I'm scared of them getting caught in them. But this one is really safe. It's really heavy, so it's hard to move, but I put their hay bales on there. And then we have pitchforks. This is like the hay wheelbarrow, not for mucking trash. And then I put grain up here for storage. So looking at this, I'd need to pick up grain very soon. And then down this aisle, my mom brought us this cute little horse bench. And then I just have this big dog bed underneath for our more feral cat, and he sleeps under there every night. And then there's this really handy chart that my grandma helped me put together. And it just keeps track of their programs, whether they're doing groundwork or Rowan's in a really particular program, upcoming appointments, clinics and events, and then any added notes. And then I just change it out every week. This way you can see I really need to get on my spring cleaning because all of these blankets need to be cleaned and possibly re-waterproofed, but I haven't had a chance to do that. But I love these hooks. I've just got them on Amazon, and they keep them up off the ground, and there's enough room for all of our blankets, and it just helps them dry. Like if they get rained on, hanging them like this is so nice, and it feels really clean. And then each stall layout is basically the same. So I'll just show you Rowan's, for example. But they all have these yokes that you can open and close. I close them at night and then open them up during the day or if I come out first thing. So they have a nice big bed and then water, salt, and then a hay net. Initially, when we built the barn, we had 5 stalls. So this whole long side was all stalls, 5 of them. And when Teddy was born, we had to add a 6th one. So this past October, we had this 6th stall added right next to the brush and tack up area. And it's a little bit of a different layout because it has the open front here like normal, but then on this side it's also open so he can look out and get more airflow. I also bed his stall a little bit different because he can get cast pretty easily. So I'll bank all the way around and then have it really obvious that this area is for hay and grain and water. So that's what his stall looks like. And unfortunately, the only downside to adding that stall later is we already had concrete underneath it. But the only thing that I need to really do differently is make sure that I power wash it regularly, and then for his comfort, bed it extra deep, which we already do. And then this brush area is really lovely because it has really good airflow and it's right in the center of the barn, so I can get to the tack room really easily, and then we can exit back to the arena very easily as well. If we're ever tacking up more than one horse, I have another set of cross ties right here. And so we could essentially have a horse right here and also a horse over there, and then we have another spot just out here. But it's usually just me. That's the main part of the barn. I'll show you one more stall. This is Ruby's stall, and she poops all over the walls. So every spring I like to power wash it if I can. But this is her bed, and she has water, 2 salt licks, and a full hay net. Something else that was really helpful with the barn, because we live in Michigan and it gets really cold here in the winter, is on the ceiling and in the walls, which you can't see, but you can see the ceiling. It's insulated with spray foam insulation, and that seems to be doing really well. Something I would like to do within the next couple years is add insulation to the doors on the inside because there's no insulation. But that's just something I'd like to do eventually. So walking to the overhang, if we go left, there's muck buckets and a muck bucket cart, feral cat house, scratching post, and then our other feeding station for our feral cats. I store shavings here. And then just over here is the wash rack. And then we added these cute little hanging baskets, which we did the first couple years, but then we never got around to it after that. And I forgot what these are called, but they bloom in the spring and late summer or early fall, and they're a pretty purple flower. I really like them. Outside of the barn, from the overhang, we access all of the pastures, so we almost always walk them through this door. This door, it gives us a path back to the hay barn and then around to the outdoor arena. A couple years ago, we planted these little evergreen trees. There's also this little gate that leads to the driveway, which is really nice because when I'm packing for a show, I'll pull the trailer right here. And then we added another pathway, which I'll show you a bit later. Right now we have 4 usable pastures and 3 groups of horses. So we have 1 extra one to rotate and then 1 that we are working on. We try to have the horses out as long as possible and try to minimize them being inside as much as possible. Something a little bit different that I'm trying now is keeping Teddy and Finn out 24/7 because they really like being outside. And I try to make it really safe for them. My only hesitation to leaving them out was I was worried about them getting hurt at night. Hi. And then they come in if there's any weird weather. But that's Teddy. And this is his pasture. And then he lives with Finn. They're out, like I said, 24/7. So this is where they are during the day in this nice big pasture with the 2 trees. And then at night I move them over into the center pasture because it's a little bit more central. And there's Finn. Something I'm trying to do with all the pastures is add in gates between all the fence lines. And I like to do that because then we can open them up or close them off depending on how we want to rotate the pastures. This pasture in the middle here is Tia's, and she just turned 30 years old. She likes to be by herself, and that allows for her to have the most access to forage, hay, grain, everything, and not have to fight with anyone. She doesn't get along with mares, so she has to either be pastured alone or with a gelding, and Finn pigs out, like he will eat all of her food. But she's really happy because she has Teddy and Finn on one side and then Ruby and Rowan on the other, and she comes in at night. Each pasture has a big water trough and then an outlet nearby so that in the winter we can plug them in and have heated water. Rowan and then Ruby back here. Good girl. Over here I cut a path that goes all the way around, like a big U-turn back to the hay barn and that driveway, because I'll show you more in depth about it later, but I try to have as much area as possible, letting it get long and have it be more of like a native landscape and prairie setting, because that's kind of what the natural landscape is. So this middle area, I'm trying to allow it to come up and be a bit longer like some of the other areas on the property. This is where we keep our hay. It's just a nice shed with a vent on either side for airflow, and it's pretty close to the barn. In the winter, it doesn't feel very close, and it just holds quite a bit of hay. We're running kind of low, but I have a delivery coming actually at the end of the month. Down this driveway, I was actually, in the last tour, I was talking about this and having it be a vision, but now it's starting to come to life a little bit. But right here, we added this big area of gravel. I would love to eventually build another structure here. It would at first probably be for equipment storage, but then eventually I would love to have more stabling and then more storage for the horses, like another feed room, a couple more stalls, and then another tack and wash area. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about for the placement now. And then our property line is just after that fence line. But right now I parked the trailer, the manure spreader, and the drag, and it works really well for that. But I was thinking having a driveway here and then the building come to about here. So they would be more like shed rows. That's just kind of the dream one day. But I think what would be cool about having more stabling on this part of the property is how close it is to the arena. So here's the outdoor arena, and I actually have a whole separate video about this project in particular, but the grass is finally coming in on the sides, which helps with erosion. Putting this arena in took, I think, between 7 and 8 months total, and then the last bit that we had to do for it to be completely finished is adding in irrigation, and that just got done a month ago. So now it is fully functioning. I can use it anytime. because the footing needs to be damp in order to ride on it. So it used to depend on the weather, but now with the irrigation, I can water it and ride on it, and it's so incredibly lovely to have that. We have another pasture here that connects to Finn and Teddy's. And then on the other side of the arena is the other pasture we are working on. We have all of the holes dug and the posts placed, but we just need to put the boards up. So let me know if you want to see a fence building like marathon, but I'm hoping to get this done before fall. Something that Sid and I really prioritize here is creating natural spaces for the wildlife that lives here. We have just under 8 acres, so we try to make as much space as possible to give back to the nature that's here. And one of the ways we do that is allowing for our grasslands to get really tall, incorporating native plants that do well in this specific setting. And then I'll manage it how you would on like a nature preserve. So once a year I have to cut it down, not low, but maybe 4 to 6 inches high, and then it comes back up a second season. If I don't do that, it kind of dries out and dies, and then it's not really usable for the animals. We try to reintroduce as many native plants that do well in this type of a setting as possible. So there's a lot of yarrow, there's native grasses, and we try to incorporate like purple coneflower, milkweed, and other things. If it's a pasture, I don't try to incorporate milkweed because it's not good for the horses. But if it's just a natural area that's not going to be used for the pastures, I encourage that because it's so good for the wildlife. We've been working on it since we've moved here, but there's a couple places that we just started doing that this year, and it takes like I think 3 seasons for it to actually start happening, and I'm finally starting to see that change. We don't use any pesticides or herbicides or any sort of chemicals anywhere on the property, so I know that everything that comes onto the property is safe. If they ingest something on the property, which I hope they do, it's safe, and that brings me a lot of peace, and it makes me feel like I'm doing my part in a really small way. Something that's happened that I didn't really intend by keeping the property this way is actually the flies have decreased significantly because we're reintroducing like a really diverse ecosystem. And so the flies then have natural predators. This is the entrance of the arena. It's a little bit dug up here because I had to make some mounds of extra material because we had some like torrential downpours, and this is where it likes to come out, the water likes to come out. So I was trying to like create a dam basically, and it worked because there wasn't a washout. Extra water here, storage for extra poles, and then the standards I just keep in the center of the arena. And it's 20 by 60, it's slightly oversized. Oh, we can show you some of the yarrow. So all of this was tore up. And so what I'm working on now with this area is creating another native prairie. I did a little bit of tilling on the very top and then added manure, and then timed it with the rainy season, and then added as many native plants as I possibly could. And I'm hoping that eventually this will all look like this, but I'm hoping with even more native flowers because this area is so incredibly rich with nature and wildlife that I want them to have this space as well. So I have these other cut paths to this part of the property because my mom, I've mentioned in other videos, is a gardener or a farmer or an herbalist. I don't know what she would prefer. She added a garden here, but then surrounding the garden is more native prairie. And then I try to cut these paths so that there's a border around the garden, places to access all the way around, so I can hack around here. My mom can drive back here and work. And then in between all of the paths are native plants. I won't show you the garden because that's my mom's project. Comment down below if you want to see a tour of my mom's garden so I can tell her to vlog her garden, because I think it's really, really cool what she's doing. So besides the goals that I have with the property and its management, some other goals that I have with the stables is to keep chipping away at adding on more space. Eventually I would love to have the setup to have a few clients or client horses here, but that's kind of way down the road. I'm really focused on our current horses and taking care of my family's horses, or if I wanted to get more into our breeding program and continue breeding sport ponies. But that's kind of a down the road future goal. Right now I'm really, really happy with where we're at. That's pretty much everything with the stable. I'll show you our little garden by the house and then where we keep our chickens, because I've tried taking on gardening as a hobby. So in our backyard, Sid and I built this when we first moved here, and this year I'm finally using it. It is just a little vegetable garden. And then just back here is where we keep our chickens, and they're free range. So this run is just if we have to keep them separate or if there's like a predator, but it's not quite big enough for all of them. So eventually we're going to need to extend that. But for now, this works really well. And there's the coop, but they all go out wherever they want. And then my favorite tree on the whole property is this maple tree in our backyard. I think that concludes the tour of the stables and our property. I really appreciate you watching this video, and I really wanted to share it because we've made a lot of progress. But of course, there's always so much to do, and that's kind of what makes it really exciting. I really wanted to share where we're at with the property and the stables right now because I wanted to share the progress with you guys, but I also really wanted to document it for us, for me and Sid, and so much has changed. So I want to take time when things are good and when things are positive to like really take it all in and like appreciate it before the moment's gone. So I appreciate you spending the time doing that with me. So I really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you very soon in the next video. I post every week, and let me know what you'd like to see more of because I love hearing from you guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.